In our first story tonight, we are traveling with a group of high school students from Champaign Central High School as they make a journey few Americans will ever experience. The 90 miles of beautiful ocean that separates the United States and Cuba have turned into a no man's land because of the strained relations between the two countries. But in 2001, a group of students from Champaign traveled across the waters to discover a beautiful country that is populated by people that love visitors, no matter where you are from. In many ways, Central High School in Champaign, Illinois, is your typical high school. But in 2001, 6 of these students took a trip that was far from typical. They spent spring break in Havana, Cuba, thanks to the work of Principal Don Hansen.
I've wanted to go to Cuba for a long, long time. I'm old enough to remember the embargo and the Bay of Pigs.
In order to take a trip to Cuba, Principal Hansen had to apply for a license through the U.S. Treasury Department. The process took over 4 months. Principal Hansen planned the trip through an organization called Cuba Now. It provides research and educational programs for travelers to Cuba.
You're going into a hostile country, which is communist. It's the last communist country in the Western Hemisphere, and probably, as far as I know, probably the most communist country in the whole world.
So most Americans, I mean, especially the older generation, they don't say very nice things about Castro.
Yeah, I'd really like to show my grandma, who's so against me going, that she, you know, there's nothing to worry about. It's a safe place. This is a good experience for everyone going.
You know, I think there's a general stereotype towards all communist leaders, between, like, whether it's Mao from China or, you know, Castro nowadays. I mean, that's all we learn because our American school books are written with that opinion. And I'm sure it's different for the way, you know, it's written in Cuba. Hopefully this trip will be a chance to break down and re-examine those stereotypes that we have towards the Cuban people.
The journey to Cuba began early on an April morning. The U.S. bans direct flights to Cuba, except some Miami to Havana charters. So the group flew to Toronto, Canada, to catch a flight to Havana. They brought boxes of humanitarian goods, such as toiletries and clothes, to distribute to the Cuban people. It was a long day of traveling, but that night the group finally arrived in Havana.
Okay, my name is Carrie Caridad, but you can call me Carrie. Welcome to Cuba, everybody.
After a bus ride to the hotel for some much-needed rest, they awoke to find they had not only traveled to another country, but they had almost traveled back in time.
You know, one of the most remarkable things about being in Cuba is the sense that you're living inside a romantic novel. Things happen to you here that just can't happen to you outside Cuba. They're so surreal. One feels that one may be walking down the streets of some stage set, Hollywood stage set of a 50s America, but whilst you also know that you're very keenly in Latin America, but always Cuba.
After touring historic Old Havana, the group ate their first Cuban meal at a private restaurant called La Casa. Privately owned restaurants called paladeras were first permitted in 1993. They were part of Castro's efforts to relieve a desperate Cuban economy in the wake of the fall of the Soviet Union. The government dictates all aspects of the business, such as the number of tables, and that only family members may help prepare the meals.
In 1993, 94, 95, 96, they blossomed. Most of them have gone out of business. They've been forced out of business by taxation. But they provide some of the more creative dishes, the state restaurants, most of which are deplorable in their cuisine, standards of cuisine. But the Paladares offer you interaction with Cubans too, and you put money directly into the hands of individuals.
I think it's probably one of the coolest places we ever ate, and it was the first one, so right away I was just like, wow. But I remember behind me was just the pond with all these turtles who would actually like beg for your food. It was kind of funny, they were like dogs, but yeah, it was just a wonderful environment, especially to have it be somebody's home and a place where you can go and eat. It was amazing.
At the end of the day, the group returns to the Hotel Capri. Although it is luxurious by Cuban standards, it lacks many of the amenities Western travelers are used to.
I think the big thing was like me forgetting that there won't be soap in the hotel room, bathroom and everything, and you know, it was just little things like that.
Many hotels don't even have toilet seats. And when you question why hotels don't have toilet seats, then you might begin to appreciate that you're not going to find toilet seats in many Cuban homes. And many Cuban homes don't even have toilets. Many don't even have running water.
It hit me how much the Cubans don't have, how much they're lacking, what wonderful consumer goods we have in the United States. People in the United States, even our poorest of poor, have so much more than many, many Cubans down there.
Because of our embargo against, I guess you could say, against Castro, really, we have punished the Cuban people, and I don't think they deserve to be punished.
As part of the group's mission to learn more about Cuban culture, the group toured an orthopedic hospital in Havana. There they donated the boxes of goods they had brought from Champaign. First, the students visited a children's ward. Every child in the hospital must have a family member with them at all times. Many of these boys and girls have been in the hospital for months as they slowly recover from extensive orthopedic surgery.
One of the moms there really was just, when we came in, her son had an operation. He was laying in the bed. He was just so happy, and she just wanted us to take pictures of her and her kid, and he was the cutest thing. And you know, she was always by his side. You could tell that she really cared, and she just, you know, was helping him speak a little bit of English. She seemed happy, and the kid seemed happy, and it was really cute.
It seemed real homey, like it would, like with the open windows and the open doors, and I mean, I thought it seemed fine. I thought it was, you know, it was a fine place to be, and every kid had somebody taking care of them and holding them, and I thought it was really good.
Next, they visited an adult unit, as a doctor told of a procedure on a female patient. She had 10 centimeters of her tibia removed. He explained how the hospital has been innovative in developing much of its own equipment, such as this brace, which is promoting new bone growth in the area.
It's really interesting to see their healthcare system as opposed to ours, and we saw some pretty interesting injuries. So I think that's one of the best things we've done so far. I would much rather interact with kids and people and see what it's really like here than tour squares.
A highlight of the trip was a visit to a primary school.
A gift from Central High School. Pens, pens, and more pens.
Hold on.
Aquí es una calculadora para usted. Empuje este botón para abrirlo. They were just so happy to get these calculators that we were giving them, and this girl, Claudia, showed me her book, and they were just learning how to multiply, but she said she was telling me in Spanish that her teacher didn't have any calculators for them, you know, so they were all very excited, and they were all nervous that they didn't know how to turn them off, and I told them there was a battery inside and it would turn off by itself, and they were all, you know, it was very cute. so not used to that kind of expressing their gratitude by performing this little show for us. You know, us American school children aren't used to doing something like that, so I think it was quite eye-opening for all of our students, and as well as all the adults that traveled with us.
There's absolutely no stage fright, and they were all completely uninhibited. They seemed to be having a fabulous time in what they were doing. And I also think that there wasn't as much maybe peer pressure as there might be in the United States.
In the United States, it's more, you know, your image. You're always concerned about your image and your reputation, and, oh, I can't do that, I might look bad. You know, it's like, they're like, what are you talking about? They're just having a great time. I would much rather have the United States be like that. Those kids are going to grow up to be better people.
It's really good that we were able to make this connection with American students, because even though our countries are at war and of the blockade, the relationship between the countries and between the people creates what we really know instead of just from what we hear.
I think if there's one single thing that's so notable in terms of the difference between the USA and Cuba, is the sense of community in Cuba. It's really a product of the revolution, and it's one of the fine point, wonderful aspects of the revolution that they taught community. And it's not just everybody getting together in the parks, but it's a sense of responsibility that children are brought up with in their schooling.
You know, it wasn't all just in your individual home, you know, watching your TV, you know, kind of way of life that we seem to have here in America. They're not, like, obsessed with themselves, you know, and I think they're sort of more into, you know, their families and the people that they care about around them.
In the United States, you have kids who sit in front of a TV and play video games, and as opposed to just getting outside playing baseball with their dad or something. I saw a lot of that in Cuba. I was playing stickball like with just a tree branch and a rock, and having just, you know, the time of their lives. And
people don't seem to be stressed. They're just laid back, you know. They enjoy every day that they have, and here everybody's so stressed because they always are worried about making money and getting this done and getting that done. There's so many things to do, and I think we could just learn to be more laid back from them and just to enjoy life.
It is definitely a different culture than America, and I enjoyed it because of that. It was totally different. There weren't McDonald's everywhere, and there weren't shopping centers everywhere. My mom always tells me that I fell in love with the touristy part of Cuba, which is what I did.
After 8 days in Cuba, the group returned to Champaign. But the memories of this island nation would not soon leave them. For the students from Central High School, they say it has forever changed their view of life in the United States.
Because the Cubans are really nice. They're friendly. And I'm not saying that Americans aren't, but we're greedy, and people aren't as friendly to foreigners as they were to us, which kind of makes me upset. And so now that I know when I'm ever dealing with somebody from a foreign country that I want to be as friendly as possible. And you know, I want to make them feel like I felt when I was there.
I just think of those people and how happy they are, and I realize that I don't need material things to fill my life with happiness.
Youth who grow up with American model can come here and begin to understand how fortunate we are in America in two very key regards. The sense of the level of standard of living that we take for granted. The fact that we do take it for granted, you come to Cuba and you begin to appreciate that other people outside America don't live to the same level, and they face daily hardships just to fight to find enough dollars to buy soap or even toilet paper when they're available, for example, is something we'd never conceive of in the States. So you can take home that sense of appreciation. And another aspect, there's a sense of liberty, being able to control your own destiny, that for various circumstances and various reasons is not available to most Cubans here.
I wish that everyone else could be more aware of what, what Cuba really is like and what the struggle that everyone is going through there. And I think hopefully with us going and being able to talk to our peers and others around us, it will be helpful in getting people to understand more.